Hello, I'm Liam Quinn with Delightful Computing. I'm really sorry I couldn't be there today, so I've recorded something and I can't see you, so I'm kind of going to guess and hope I've got the level of detail right. So you're generating formatted pages. Sometimes there's figures or tables that don't really fit. They're too wide, but if you scale them down, they may be too hard to read. Now this happens a lot in multi-column work, for example journal publishing, where the lines are narrow, as you've got 2 columns on a page, 3 columns on a page. So you tend to get things like this, where the table doesn't quite fit on the page. We're going to fix that. We're going to talk about different ways to fix it. So the most common way I've seen is to blame the author. And you allow authors to mark tables as spanning multiple columns. But the authors often don't do this, and they're not in a position to, because they don't know how the text will be formatted. They don't know the page size, the number of columns. So it doesn't tend to work very well. Excuse me. After fix up, we want it to look like this. The table has been spanned. Or, as per the title of this talk, maybe it's been rotated to fit, and I'll come back to that later. The techniques are pretty much the same, it turns out, with some important details that are different. So, approach 2, we don't blame the author, we do automatic spanning. And for example, with Antenna House Formatter, hi Tony, you can reprocess the input. So what you do is you run it once to generate the area tree. You read the formatted area tree. You actually need a license to run Antenna House Formatter in this way, commercial license. And you find out the width of each table. Now it's too wide. You add a span attribute to the table container. So this means you're running, for example, XSLT, reading your input file a second time, but now informed by the area tree. And when you process the table, you notice the table was too wide and you add an attribute. And then you run the formatter again. If you're using print.xml, you can use JavaScript to set an attribute on an overflowing table in the same way, and it will reformat. With PDF Reactor, it's similar. You set an overflow watcher in JavaScript, but you need to have the server running and you need a license, again, to do that. The evaluation license with print.xml, I think, lets you run the JavaScript, or did last time I tried. So print.xml and PDF Reactor are both CSS formatters. Antenna House can also do XSLFO, of course. If you still get overflow after spanning columns, and maybe using smaller text or smaller gutters if the difference is small, you might have your XSLT or whatever is processing this determine whether the table would fit on the page when rotated. If it would, you can add an FO block container with reference orientation equals 90. That's if you're using XSLFO. So you add that wrapper element and it will rotate the table and leave room for it automatically. For CSS it's a bit harder. You add a container with style equals width and height, whatever it should be, from formatting it in the right direction. But when you rotate it, it becomes kind of floated, so you need to leave room for the rotated table. That's what that container is doing. And then on the actual table itself, you do style equals transform rotate 270 or rotate 90 as you wish. Now this only works if the table fits in on the page. So if it's still too big, what to do? With Antenna House Formatter and XSLFO, you can use a spread formatting object and a rotated block container, and the rotated table will split across pages. I've got a couple of links here, but this will be up on delightfulcomputing.com after today's event, or if you're on really listening to it on delightfulcomputing.com, welcome. And you can see the PDF there too with the link. I'll just show you a picture. Now this is from Antenna House's site, because I don't think I have a license right now. There's a couple of things to note. First thing to note is I don't believe they have a CSS way of rotating tables that span multiple pages. The second is the dark band in the middle of the screen here is the gutter between two pages, and it doesn't look very good because the top of the text is cut off. They've just split the page wherever the page break happened to be. I hope that they can do better. I suspect if you have a keep with a table row, you'll do better, but I don't know for sure. Or it might be that their page master for the spread doesn't have margins in the gutter. Again, I don't know. They do also have examples on their website of rotating an individual table in XSLFO, and you can do that in CSS as well, of course. As I said, alright, I've only used 5 minutes, I think. No, 6 minutes. So that leaves me some time for questions. But before we get there, I want to give another approach to rotating tables, and that's transposing tables. So, for example, if you've got 12 columns and 5 rows, you've got a short table with lots of column headings. You format it the other way round, so it's now got 5 columns and 12 rows. So instead of having the headings across the top, the headings are now, if it's in English, the headings will be on the left. If it's in Arabic, they'll be on the right. I suppose it's in English to make the description simpler. Then what was a header for each column now becomes a header for each row, and if there were headers on the rows, those now become column headers, and the table will fit much better. This relies on the use of proper markup for column and row headings, so TH in HTML. I like the spelling of headings. This kind of transposition is routinely done for Braille publications, so and accessibility, because Braille printers can't get as many characters per line as regular printers, so they often have to do this. So that's another approach for tables that don't fit. It may or may not be acceptable to the authors, of course, and the publishers. Okay, thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry in 10 minutes I couldn't get hugely technical, but I hope this gives some directions and some ideas of some of the things that you can do. Alright, thanks.